It is 5 o'clock in the morning, deep within the Bangweulu Wetlands, and a ghost from the Cretaceous period is already waiting. This is the Shoebill Stork. For the next 14 hours, as the swamp awakens around it, this towering predator will not take a single step. It will not make a single sound. But beneath this terrifying patience lies a singular, brutal purpose. Will this absolute stillness be rewarded before the darkness reclaims the swamp? Before the sun has even breached the eastern horizon, a thick, suffocating mist blankets these vast, isolated expanses. We are deep within the papyrus swamps, a primordial labyrinth of dense green reeds and dark, murky waters that feels entirely forgotten by the relentless march of time. At this hour, the air is cool and heavy with the rich scent of decaying vegetation. The nocturnal shift of the wilderness is slowly coming to a close. High within the shadowed canopy of an ancient swamp mahogany tree, a massive Pell's fishing owl ruffles its damp, intricately patterned feathers, letting out a final, haunting hoot before retreating into sleep. Down below, the dark water begins to stir. The immense, rounded backs of a hippopotamus pod break the glassy surface, resembling slick, gray boulders in the lifting fog. They are returning from their long night of grazing, sinking their colossal bulk into the comforting embrace of the deep channels to escape the impending heat of the coming day. And there, standing ankle-deep in the cold, muddy water, emerges a breathtaking silhouette belonging to another era entirely. The Balaenoceps rex, towering, motionless, and undeniably prehistoric, this incredible prehistoric predator stands like a carved stone gargoyle amidst the drifting bog fog. With its remarkably clunky beak and pale, unblinking eyes, it simply waits. As the muted blue hues of dawn gradually soften, the wider ecosystem begins to awaken around this silent sentinel. Vast black Lechwe herds wade collectively through the flooded plains, their elongated hooves parting the shallow waters in a rhythmic, splashing chorus. Deeper within the dense papyrus walls, the remarkably elusive Sitatunga steps deliberately through tangled vegetation, its spiral horns blending perfectly with the twisting green reeds. The soft morning light reveals the delicate African jacana, famously known as the lily trotter, balancing gracefully atop a magnificent carpet of giant green water lily pads. Suddenly, the serene quiet of the dawn is entirely shattered. An African fish eagle, perched high on a dead, moss-covered stump, unleashes a powerful, ringing call. It is a piercing, awe-inspiring declaration. The day has truly begun in the death swamps. By 7:45, the thick morning fog completely lifts. The wetlands are surrendered to a bright, overcast sky. This is a crucial time of high energy, a brief and frantic window before the oppressive heat of the African sun takes its inevitable toll. Wading gracefully through a quiet, silver-colored channel is the Goliath heron, an immensely tall and elegant hunter, moving with a giant, calculated stride that creates absolutely no ripples. Not far away, a fascinating and grim marabou stork scavenges along the water's edge, probing the thick mud alongside a strikingly vibrant saddle-billed stork. The humid air above the dark water becomes a breathtaking theater of aerial acrobatics. A highly agile pied kingfisher hovers perfectly stationary in midair, wings beating furiously before smashing first into the swamp water like a dart. Nearby, a brilliantly colored malachite kingfisher clings sideways to a bending papyrus stalk, rigorously shaking water from its pristine feathers. Yet, directly beneath this flurry of avian activity, silent dangers navigate the twisting labyrinth. An intricately patterned African python slowly slithers its heavily muscled body through the damp roots, vanishing perfectly. On a rotting log, a monitor lizard crawls cautiously, flicking its forked blue tongue, ever vigilant of the giant Nile crocodile now hauling its heavily armored body onto the muddy bank. This reptilian leviathan lies completely motionless, opening its cavernous jaws wide. Through all of this chaotic life, the shoebill remains. This apex avian hunter has not moved a single inch. It stands precisely where it was hours ago. It is a profound masterclass in absolute energy conservation.
As the hours stretch toward 11:30, the atmosphere undergoes an incredibly oppressive transformation. The ambient temperature climbs relentlessly. The swamp humidity becomes a suffocating, almost tangible weight. This is the perilous period of the midday rest. Physical energy must be conserved at all costs. The circadian rhythm of the marsh dictates absolute paralysis. The beautiful chorus of morning bird calls is gone, replaced by the relentless, maddening droning of millions of swamp flies. Every living creature seeks refuge. A mature black Lechwe buck lies entirely flat in a shallow puddle of dark mud, slowly chewing its cud. A tiny swamp flycatcher, perched lifelessly on a drooping reed, holds its beak wide open, panting softly in the stagnant air. Deep within the broad shadow of a gigantic water lily leaf, a secretive water thickney crouches incredibly low, absolutely still. It is here, in this breathless heat, that we must reflect on the fragile ecological balance of this ancient biome. The dark, muddy water surface suddenly breaks open. A massive, wonderfully primitive African lungfish shoves its heavily textured head out of the murky depths, loudly sucking in a huge, hollow gulp of stagnant air. It relies directly on the atmosphere when the swamp water's oxygen depletes. These wetlands serve as a living, breathing bridge between the aquatic and terrestrial worlds, a fragile oasis increasingly threatened by the shifting climates of the modern world beyond its borders. Should these waters dry forever, the ancient magic held within these reeds will perish alongside them. And still, ignoring the heavy swarms of flies buzzing around its massive beak, the shoebill stork maintains its unending vigil. It rapidly flutters its throat pouch to cool its blood without moving its body. 7 grueling hours have passed,
As the afternoon presses slowly onward toward 2:30, the harsh, punishing midday glare finally softens its grip. The fading daylight introduces warm, muted, dusty hues to the overcast sky, and a subtle, highly welcomed cooling breeze rustles the endless papyrus. The entire swamp, life begins to stir once more from its torpor. High above, a sleek African marsh harrier rides the rising warm thermal currents, circling effortlessly to scan the golden reeds. Down below, a graceful flock of African skimmers beautifully slices the completely glassy water surface, scooping up small fish as they glide flawlessly. The apex predators are sensing the critical shift. The Nile crocodile abandons its baking mudbank, slowly sliding backward into the deep swamp water, completely submerging without making a single sound. Then, finally, the ancient shoebill breaks its remarkable freeze. Having stood like a statue for the better part of the daylight hours, this towering ambush predator slowly lifts its dinosaur-like foot, taking exactly one highly calculated, agonizingly slow step forward through the thick black mud. It lowers its center of gravity, a tightly coiled spring of pure kinetic potential. The endgame has officially begun. The golden hour swiftly gives way to a fading, soft, diffused twilight. The transition from day to night here is swift, absolute. Framed entirely as a pitch-black silhouette against the faint remaining atmospheric light, the shoebill is paralyzed in intense, singular concentration. Its pale, unblinking eye reflects the very last dying spark of the sun. It stares ruthlessly down into the black water. Directly beneath its heavy beak, 3 ominous mud bubbles rise from the absolute depths. They silently pop. There is a massive, shifting movement beneath the thick mud. The tension is deafening. The silence is profound. A massive, ugly gray fin breaches the black surface for a microscopic fraction of a second. It collapses its entire massive body forward. Its razor-sharp beak smashes brutally into the thick black mud with unparalleled speed. A massive geyser of dirty swamp water violently explodes high into the twilight air. Pure, unadulterated chaos. The enormous bird plunges its head entirely beneath the surface, wrestling violently against an incredibly strong, unseen aquatic force. With a tremendous, victorious heave, the shoebill rips its head completely backward out of the depths. Clamped securely between its unbreakable mandibles is a massive, violently thrashing lungfish. Aggressively tossing its head backward, the shoebill brutalizes the thick fish. Its ancient throat expanding as it swallows the giant prize whole in one terrifying gulp.
following a chilling, triumphant display of bill clattering that echoes across the dark marsh. It returns perfectly to its statue-like stillness. The grueling 14-hour wait is over. The dinosaur bird's long vigil is finally over. But as the last light fades from the Bangweulu, a far more ancient, cold-blooded hunter is just opening its eyes. To see what rises from the mud when the shoebill sleeps, step into the midnight swamps right here.